Support for our show comes from Blue Owl Capital. When we started this show, our goal wasn't just to spotlight the sport we love. It was to support the talent shaping the future of tennis. And Blue Owl Capital shares that same passion. They want to support the players who are redefining the game. You might see their logo during the Australian Open as they sponsor some of the sport's most exciting players. And just like these athletes are making their mark on the game of tennis, Blue Owl is doing the same in investing. Through vision and discipline, Blue Owl is redefining alternatives for investors and for companies seeking capital solutions for long-term growth. Check out blueowl.com/investing to learn more. All right, everyone, welcome into Served. We are a week in to the Australian Open. Our guy JW has been putting in some hours. He's been hitting you with those quick served in the mornings. JW, good news. I think you're off quick serve duty. I said duty. Anyways, I think you're off quick serve duty. I think I am going to jump in for the next week. So thank you for holding down the fort and giving us the updates in the early rounds of this tournament. Something we do is our live draw show. We get some right, we get some wrong, but we actually, unlike a lot of people who make predictions, we check ourselves and we make fun of ourselves. So this will be the redraw show where we will get into if we could do it again from this point forward. We'll tell you what will change. We'll tell you what we got right. We'll tell you what we got incredibly wrong. Before we get to that, JW, one, how you doing? And two, give us a quick little rundown and a couple of tidbits of where we're at in this Australian Open.
Good, thanks. Nice to see you take the baton. It's been, I feel like a couple of themes have emerged from this event. One of them is youth. I mean, this next gen, and we can talk about Lerner Tien and Alex Mickelson and Fonseca. And then we've got the other extreme. We've got 37-year-olds and 38-year-olds who are not acting their age. We also have the favorites look awfully strong. I'd include Iga Swiatek, who's been great, Coco, Sabalenka on the women's side, Sinner, Alcaraz, Novak. And then I think that next tier, the fourth seeds are both out. The 5 seeds are both out. I think that level has not really lived up. So sort of the tried and true, the blue chips are still in, and sort of that next level down on your, in your stock portfolio, they have underperformed.
Yeah, it's certainly been really fun. And I think the Australian Open, maybe more than any other event, you see someone like a Fonseca, someone like a Mickelson, someone like a Lerner Tien, where, okay, we have the data set from a full year on tour last year, right? And we know we can see the potential. But then we get to an off season, right? These are not, some of them played in next gen final, but that's basically the start of the year as opposed to the end of last year. You get to see the data set back. It's fun to see the youngins come back and see what they've worked on during the off season. Are they in shape? Lerner Tien playing these absolute wars on a center court tells me a lot about preparation, because you can't accidentally play a 5-setter with someone like Daniil Medvedev, and we'll go into these matchups and storytell a little bit. Producer Mike, are we starting with the men's or women's draw? Let's see what we got right, what we got wrong.
Let's go ahead and start with the women's draw.
Okay, Saba and Andreeva up top. I think we had that. Is that correct?
That, yeah.
Did we both had that one? So nothing to be done there.
Yeah, the only ones you really didn't have, you had Tauson. She moved forward to play on, but you had her losing early on.
Okay, yeah. I mean, she did win last week, so maybe we should have valued a little bit of form there. Andreeva. Let's get to that. JW, are we changing anything? I'm obviously still going Saba. She's still my favorite. I see no reason to change that one.
Agree. She's at that point where she does not need to play A or even B level.
Yeah.
Sometimes she's looked great. Sometimes she's looked not great, but she's still made it through week 1, no problem. Yeah, she's still my pick.
It's funny. She's gotten to the level where she is a first ballot Hall of Famer, where she hasn't lost to this tournament in 3 years. And it's weird. We say, well, she hasn't looked great, but I don't think she's lost a set either. Is that correct? Like, I don't think she's lost a set. So you're basically judging players against their own shadows. We'll talk about that, or I want to talk about that a little bit more with Iga Swiatek again when we get there. But next line we have Donna Vekic and Pavlyuchenkova. I thought I had Vekic through. Is it? Did I have Vekic through?
You had Schneider.
Ugh, dang it! Sorry, Donna. Vekic, Pavlyuchenkova. Who do we like there? Pavlyuchenkova's put up some pretty lopsided score lines, and she is a player that runs hot and cold. When she's good, she can make the finals of a French Open, as we've seen her do, and when she's bad, she can not do that.
Agree. I like Donna Vekic though, who has really, she always had this power. She's been around a long time, but she is still the younger of the two, and she's just kind of figured out how to win. I mean, that Schneider match was a pick'em. She's playing a lefty. It's deep in the third set, and just she wasn't going to lose. And we've seen that a few times. I also, I wonder if she's playing for Pam Shriver as well.
Yeah.
Which they have a close relationship, and Pam's going through it a little bit. She's got a little motivation, so maybe there's some sentimental, underpinnings of that choice. But I like Vekic.
Yeah, and to expand on the Pam Shriver thought, listen, we're still, our hearts and souls are with everyone who has been dealing with the fires in Los Angeles. Pam had to evacuate. I read a report that trophies were in a car and they got stolen out of a car, which just sucks. In tennis, we can argue with people. We can even not really know people get along, but we are one big family. I like Pam Shriver. She has always been great to me since I was young and on tour. And so, Pam, we are thinking of you. Not that you have the time to listen to a podcast right now, but hopefully you can feel the love from this side of our little studio. And then JW, obviously we had Coco going through because she's playing great.
Hold on, wait. You skipped past that because your round 4 picks were wrong there. So you had Quinn Wen going through to the quarters.
Oh yeah. She lost early on, second round. I think
That was a weird one.
Yeah. I'm not changing it. Like, for me, we're gonna get some wrong to the quarters. My picks to the semis, I think, are still intact, which does matter. But Queen Wen, weird. It's she's gotten to the point where you are surprised when she loses early in an event. Seemed to have trouble with a slice a little bit, if I recall correctly. But listen, I think Vekic has become. She's always been a great ball striker, like JW talked about. She's always had the ability. She's less streaky now, right? She's a more bankable player. On the heels of Wimbledon last year and then the Olympics, it seems like when you see her name in the draw, you view her through a much more reliable lens now than maybe you did 4, 5, 6 years ago. Sasha Bayin working with her. No surprise when he works with someone that success normally seems to follow. The guy is a worker, an absolute worker out there. So happy to see that. I'll take Donna Vekic also, but Pavlyuchenkova, she's playing well. I'm not as confident in that pick as JW is, but okay. Who do we have in the next section? Obviously I had Coco. JW picked Bencic with the upset special first round against Ostapenko. Pay the man. How far did he have Bencic going? Because obviously I had Ostapenko, which means I'm probably fucky Magoo for that one. But Coco versus Bencic in the round of 16. Bencic coming off of motherhood, gave birth and is now coming back from that process. Made a final of a challenger coming into Australia, but has looked great so far. Making you look smart, JW.
Yeah, she will be offset very soon. But plenty in the other side of the ledger coming up. But no, Bencic has been a really nice story. That match with Naomi was a disappointment. We can talk about Naomi a little bit maybe because she comes, she beats Muhova, things are looking great, and then we were talking about this on the show the other day. She's won 4 majors. She did not come back from maternity leave to sort of strive to make middle weekends. So she won 2 matches against 2 good players. That ought to give her some confidence, but the body betrays her again. She's already sort of talked about, if the results don't come, I'm going to retire. And I don't know how she processes another kind of, there's some green shoot, signs of optimism, but she didn't come back from motherhood to lose in the 3rd round and not even finish the match.
Yeah, I mean, we do need to be fair. She was carrying an ab injury. She made the final of a warm-up event last week, was carrying an ab injury into the tournament, won 2 rounds, and then it reared its head in a tough way. As soon as you said Mukhova, I know that I took her to lose to Coco. I didn't take her past that. But I like her. I think it was a great win for Naomi. The other side of the coin, obviously, when you've set precedent for winning majors and 4 of them in a pretty tight window of time, you don't want to finish. I think she finished last year right around 60, somewhere around there. Don't, go with your Twitter fingers and tell me it was 58 or it was 61. It's the same thing to me, whatever. When you've been number 1 in the world and won 4 majors, I guarantee you she might not even know where it was. But consistency has been something that has been up and down, right? Remember, she crushes Ostapenko first round of the U.S. Open last year, and then loses the next round. So it's building off of those wins, building momentum where you're winning 3, 4, 5 matches at a time. That sucks that she had to default from a match, but she came down and won a bunch of matches. Like if you look at one in the warm-up event, this is what I'm selling her if I am in her team right now. The tennis level's there. Let's get the health where it needs to be. But she's still like crazy young, especially for tennis standards these days. She has time. Needs the consistency. We know what her top level is. And also JW, she's not, I think this stat's right. She's made it past the round of 16 of a major exactly 4 times. And guess how many times she's won?
Oh yeah, she's undefeated when she gets to the quarterfinals.
So if I'm in her camp, I'm going, hey, listen, let's set the mission. Let's survive the first week because we know what you can do in the second week of majors. You've done it before, but this isn't someone who's had heartbreaking semis and final losses in majors, right? The hurdle for her. More, not the only hurdle, but more so than maybe the other players who have won majors is surviving that first week, finding that consistency. And then once she finds that gear, the top level is beyond question. I still think that's in there. I think her fitness was much better coming into the Australian Open this year, aside from the ab injury, but just the way that she was moving, she was half a step more in position on every shot she was hitting. Stinks that she couldn't get through, but let's not let this, obviously Naomi is a huge champion, is a global superstar. Let's not let that injury overshadow the success of Belinda Bencic and what she's been able to accomplish quickly in her comeback. Props to her. I think it ends now. Obviously, Coco, I think, is the best player in the draw so far outside of maybe Sabalenka. But one observation on Coco, if the double fault comes, they're not coming in bunches, right? They're not coming 3, 4 in a row where it's like you just broke yourself. And 2, post her U.S. Open victory, with the exception of last year in Australia where she was pretty dominant up until losing to Sabalenka, and I think people forget how close she was and how well she was playing going into that semifinal and in that semifinal. But we've seen her early in not even just majors, but tournaments, struggle, get into prolonged matches where she's grinding out, 7-5 in the thirds. And it's a superpower of hers to play average and win, but she's not playing average right now. She's putting score lines. This looks routine. It's a different level up. Not all, fourth rounds that you make are the same. This has been pretty dominant, JW.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. The players she's beaten are not sort of the normal first 3 players you'd play. She's got a lefty. She's got a former major champion in Kenin. I mean, she's just looked like she's a different level of tennis, honestly. And all credit to Bencic. By the way, someone should clip what you said about Naomi Osaka and send it to her. That was such a nice distillation to sort of take what could be a glass half empty and make it glass half full. But I think Coco's, she's, we sort of talk about these different phases of a career. Don't you think there's a new phase of a career where you just do things routinely? There's no drama. There's no sort of grind them out and survive in advance. She's just winning tennis matches, and she's been really impressive. Machine mode.
So this is where your bench call ends, I'm assuming, Coco through?
Yeah.
I had Badosa. I know I had her through that section. I also had Pegula, who lost to Danilovic, who is really impressive. Lefty, gets a lot of shape on her shots. The forehand kind of jumps off the court. The second serve was getting up and away. She beat Pegula 6-1 the other day. A Serbian prospect, maybe someone who was super hyped early and then maybe fell away and now seems to be finding form again. And Badosa, we're quickly forgetting that she spent 18 months on the sidelines, right? Struggling with back injuries and everything else. And she would wonder out loud whether she was going to play again. And here she is, this reliable entity that we can circle into the 4th round of majors again. How quickly we forget where she was going into Wimbledon last year. Props to Paula Badosa. I like Danilovic. That second serve, it's not a massive as far as pace, but it's got this little lefty kicker thing that is getting up and away where the girls can't attack. And if Jess Pegula can't attack your second serve, then you got a real one working, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you saw Novak watching that match, but that was nice. You know, Danilovic is a nice player. You're right. There was a lot of sort of buzz and hype around her a few years ago. She's had some injuries. I remember covering her father in the NBA, which makes me feel old. But no, she's a very nice, talented player, and gets it done on. You know, I remember she beat Donna Vekic on clay at the at Roland Garros last year. But no, I think Badosa would be my pick, and the comeback player of 2024 is continuing her comeback. She's looked so solid, and I don't know if either of those two players is mounting much of a challenge against Coco, but congrats to them both. I like Badosa though.
I think I'm the same. It wouldn't shock me if Danilovic kept going. I just don't know enough about that matchup. I'd be surprised if Badosa tried to take that second serve early. You know, Jess really didn't adjust her return position much in that match. Curious to see if Badosa, you know, does the old Rafa, you know, vamos amigo, where we check back, you know, 6 or 7 feet behind the baseline and try to find some height on the ball. But props to them. I like Badosa through as well. Someone who you weren't real high on coming into this tournament, JW, and obviously there were massive public question marks around her, and she has looked great so far, is Elena Rybakina. Do we have any updates on her story? And for a quick refresh, and we talked about it ad nauseum the last couple of shows. Goran Rybakina breaks up with the coach after U.S. Open. Everyone thinks that's kind of a good idea. She hires Goran Ivanisevic. Everyone thinks that's kind of a good idea. Coming down to Australia, she says Vukov is back in the mix. We probably didn't think that was a good idea. We said Goran might not know about it. We thought that was probably not a good thing. Where are we now? Rybakina has looked good the first week.
Yeah, I mean, the other data point on that, the other bullet point is that after Rybakina announced that she was reuniting and that her former coach was joining the team, the WTA quickly responded that, wait, he is serving a provisional suspension for a complaint. Rybakina denies that there has been any mistreatment. There's a lot of scuttlebutt. There is nothing official. At some point, the WTA will announce the findings, presumably, of this provisional suspension. In as much as there is any happy news here, it's that none of this chaos seems to have had any sort of negative effect on her tennis. Former finalist here. I mean, she had to beat 2 teenagers to get to round 3, and then had to beat Yastremska. So I don't know how much we've really learned, but no, I mean, she's been great. She's not dropping sets. She's already shown herself on this surface, and it's nice that all of this sort of, you know, there's a lot of chatter and innuendo and rumors, and I mean, if there's any silver lining here, it's that it doesn't seem to have had a negative impact on her tennis.
And did JW pick the upset special with Rybakina before Keys, or did he just pick Keys going through? Get back to us on that while we cover Maddie Keys. Maddie Keys, we both had going pretty far in this event. She won last week, has looked good. You were putting a lot of stock in the 2-month marital bliss that she is still experiencing with her coach. Can't imagine. You know, Brooke and I can't figure out what we want for dinner without some sort of friction. So, you know, props to them, to Bjorn Frantangelo. It's early. Have you flipped? Are you not the like marriage makes you 10 spots higher in the rankings guy anymore?
No, she's in a good spot in her life. If it will keep her body together throughout the tournament, you know, so much the better. But I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate it, but I think there's something to be said for, if you're feeling good about your personal life, sometimes that translates to the court.
We both chose Maddie Keys to get through to the quarters, and I think potentially further. Any reason to change that? Has Rybakina convinced you that she is back in and she is going to beat Maddie Keys?
I still like Maddie Keys, and I think, you know, again, if thighs and knee, you know, if her body doesn't, if her body holds up, she can hit with Rybakina ball for ball. I think this surface really chimes well with her. Rybakina too, for that matter. But no, I'm sticking with my pick. I like Madison. I think actually beating Collins was more significant than either of the 3 setters she won in the previous rounds.
Well, Rybakina looked like she was like locking up at the end of her match
with her back.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh really?
We'll see. She is. Listen, if there's something wrong, she kind of errs on the side of like, nope, not doing it. Like, so we'll see how that shakes out. Something to watch. But I guess both of us have taken keys over her anyway. So all that does is lend itself to us taking keys over her anyways. So something to keep an eye on. Thank you for that update. The next one is amazing. We had it's pretty fun. I don't know that this has ever happened because a lot of things would have to go right, but a married couple beating the number 4 seed in a slam in the same morning, Svitolina.
Crazy.
And Gail Monfils. I don't know that I did not have enough faith in friend of the show, Alina Svitolina, taking out Paolini. And then Kudermetova making a bit of a run. This is someone who was borderline top 10 maybe 18 months ago and I remember her making back-to-back semis. I think it was Rome and Madrid, where all of a sudden you're going, okay, is she a contender at the French Open? Kind of completely fell off after that. I mean, just plummeted out of the rankings. Seems like she is back beating Haddad Maia. I don't think either one of us had Kudermetova in the round of 16. I think we had Svitolina not beating Paolini, but not surprising that she had gotten there. How do you see that shaking out between Svitolina and Kudermetova?
Yeah, I've done terribly here. Svitolina, who had that I think she had surgery in the offseason. She had an injury in the offseason. She's come back great.
Yep.
And now you look at her, she took out Paolini. I think we were all sort of waiting to see, is Paolini, did she have one magical year, or is this sort of the new her? And this was not a great result for someone who's coming off winning, getting the 2 major finals the previous year. So good for Svitolina. And then, Kudermetova was ranked like 1 spot above her little sister, which is kind of the ultimate indignity when your little sibling passes you up. And she's been terrific this tournament. Haddad Maia continues to mystifyingly underperform in slam. All of a sudden, Alina Svitolina is looking like, I think that's my quarterfinalist. I think Svitolina wins that next match.
I think you're right there. The next section, so it's weird. I think as analysts, we become attached to certain platitudes. We all end up parroting each other at some point, and it's like grit, competitiveness, all these things that we use to define Emma Navarro. She's calm under pressure, all of these things, and I'm going, okay, well, there's some problem solving. She's actually it almost discounts what she does on the court, right? The backhand gets through the court really well. She moves really well. She's able to switch directions really well. So it's almost like we become lazy when describing someone and then ignore the other things that also make them really good. And then they go and basically provide value to the first lazy definition. That's what Emma Navarro has done. She has problem solved. She has kept her composure. She has done all the things that I was probably tired of hearing about her, not in a bad way, just in wanting more out of analysis of her game. It's not just that she's composed. There are a million other factors, but she's been really composed to this point in the tournament so far, beating Ons Jabeur to move on to the 4th round.
Yeah. Thanks to Mike Hayden's great idea. I wrote a long piece about Emma Navarro a few weeks before the event, talked to her, and she's basically cops to what you just said. I mean, I always, you always feel a little weird where you have these cut and pastes about athletes and the athlete themselves doesn't necessarily buy in.
Yeah.
She knows who she is. She knows who she is as a tennis player. And she's very upfront about the fact that her competitive instincts and her kind of taste for competition are her great tennis gifts. I don't know if you saw, she even signed the camera Survive and Advance, which is not something that, I mean, that has a certain awareness to that, right? Look, I'm not playing my best, but I won the match. And I think the shorthand on her is absolutely correct. She has not played her best tennis by any stretch this event, but she's won 3 setters and now gets Kasatkina, who I had heard that she'd wanted to add some pace and some bulk and some power and tried to sort of put on some muscle in the off season. I haven't seen her play that much. I mean, certainly the stats suggest she might be hitting the ball a little bit harder. I don't know who do you like in this one? Navarro, Kasatkina.
I won't bet against Emma. Another point, and then I also want to give props to Ons Jabeur because had to bail on last season, dealt with injury problems. She actually looked really good in Australia. Obviously, coming back and losing to Emma Navarro in this close of a match after getting through a couple. Props to Ons. Everyone in tennis is better when she is happy, smiling, and being an artist on a canvas that we call a tennis court. Great for her. The other thing about that we don't talk about enough we never get away from it in the men's game because it's a 5-set medium and it matters, and it's differentiated from the normal tour. 2 out of 3 sets on the women's side with more recovery time, not as much of a factor going through slams as it is for the men. Have you ever seen Emma Navarro tired or unprepared?
Yeah.
Not a single time. Are you worried about her? It's her 3rd straight match where she's playing extended, 4-all, winning 6-4 in the 3rd, 5 in the 3rd, 4 in the 3rd, whatever I'm getting wrong. Maybe one of them is 3 in the 3rd, but extended 3-set matches, and where the 1st and 2nd sets are pretty tight, and you never even get the feeling that she's breathing hard. That's not an accident, folks. People aren't given fitness at birth. We're given, certain things that can be weapons physically, but endurance is not one of them. We do not talk about fitness enough on the women's side. And Emma Navarro, she's played these extended matches. I'm not even worried about her fitness against Kasatkina. Not even, it's not even a storyline to me. Now, if Kasatkina is working on those things, as you say, JW, this is the matchup where she would have to employ it, right? This is the matchup where she actually has to go through someone. I'm not sure it's there yet. We will see. I'm fascinated by the matchup and fascinated to see how Kasatkina changes strategy a little bit. An uber professional shows up every week, and the book is just might not have the firepower to take out the biggest names in the biggest events. I like Navarro moving through, but I am fascinated to see how Kasatkina switches it up. And let's see if those things she tried to work on in the offseason actually pay off. I have Navarro. You?
Yeah, same. Another 3-setter, and I think you're right. I mean, they have cameras everywhere at Melbourne Park, and when you see the gym, odds are really good Emma Navarro will be on the treadmill. Every time we come back from a break, there she is logging her miles. So you're right. We talk about heart and guts and brain. We don't always talk about lungs. The fact that she can play 3-setters and not be short of breath says something.
It's interesting. It made me, my mind all went to the psychology of seeing someone that is really fit, but then you see him do this. Like Jim Courier, he's admitted to me he had the reputation for being like the fittest guy on tour for a while. Like I think the people that really changed was Lendl early. Jim took that baton, and now everyone is like a physical, freak on tour. We're seeing these crazy athletes, but he would admit, like, I'm dead. I've just come off a tough 4-setter or 5-setter, but I would go for a run through very public places just because it added to that aura, right? I'd go, even if he goes, I could go jog for a half mile, but as long as someone gets a click, no one knows how far I actually ran. And I remember seeing David Ferrer, who is an animal, doesn't get talked about enough to this day with what he accomplished. I think he won 700 matches in his career. Just an amazing competitor, absolute maximizer. But you would see him, you'd be driving back. I remember this one time at Indian Wells, he had played a match. The story probably gets better with time, but in my mind, it was like a really tough 3-setter. And we're driving down this long road that you kind of have to take into Indian Wells, and you see him jogging back. And then I get a text from one of my other friends that night where he was like, he played a match, ran home, and then one of my buddies on tour goes, Ferrer down at the bar after a run and a 3-setter, just ripping a heater at the, I'm like, this guy's an animal. This guy's an absolute, so I think the mental psychology of, I don't think Emma's doing it for show, but that's where my mind went, is these really physically gifted athletes, they can kind of play into that aura and it becomes intimidating even when they're not on the court, which is not, it's not like I can just go like rip serves as I'm on the way home. Like I like the psychology of being, a fitness fanatic. And I think it, you think about it when you're playing these people. It's like, I'm tired. They're probably less tired. And
most of her social media posts are like her jogging around wherever she is.
I believe it.
It's ridiculous.
I believe it. And it's not a bluff. You see some people bluff it. Oh, I've been in the gym a lot. And then they go, it's like the third set and they're just melting.
They're out yogging.
Yeah. Yogging. Yeah. Apparently you just run. All right. And let's get down to Iga Swiatek, and I want to talk about this a little bit because judging people against their own shadow, right? And we forget when Iga loses in the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open to Pegula, we hang on to that as a negative result. Whereas if Andreeva goes last year and makes the quarters of the French Open, we view that as an ascendant result, right? And maybe it's true, but Iga was ignored at the beginning of this event. A lot of people picking against her. I picked her to go to the final, and it was almost digested like I was going out on a limb, picking someone who's won 5 majors by 24 years old, right? And she has looked great in this event so far, beating Raducanu 0-1, and it might not have been that close. Like, she has been an absolute star so far, and we can't act shocked. Bet against the greats at your own peril. And Iga Swiatek, I don't care how the rest of this tournament goes, she is one of the greats. And we pigeonhole her into, she's a clay courter. She is the best in the world on clay. She's won as many hardcore Grand Slams as I ever did. And people would tell you that I'm good on hard or I'm good on grass, right? We just have to pay respect more often to the people. Maybe she loses in the quarters and it's not winning the French Open, but it's still a run. She's still winning matches. She's looked great so far. I'm assuming we're both going to take her into the next round. But J-Doug, give me a little storytelling about who she's playing. A lucky loser in the 4th round. Lucky loser is someone who loses in qualifying. Someone pulls out of the main draw. Lucky loser takes that spot. You get another look at the basket, houses money, and sometimes it ends up in the 4th round.
Ivelisse is the lucky loser, as you say. First time a lucky loser has gotten this far since this event has been in Melbourne Park. I know her more for her. She's great on social media, and she'll go after sort of the scumbag, the dirtbag gamblers who are harassing players. She's not a big player. She's sort of a packed, almost a Paolini build. And here you are, you're outside the top 100. And you catch a break, player pulls out, you're in the main draw, and suddenly you're playing Iga, 5-time major champion, the middle weekend of a major. It's been a great story. I haven't seen her play that much, but this is a career result, and I will tell you, she's an A+ follow. She's very witty and smart on socials, but that's probably not the X's and O's scouting report you wanted.
No, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted a little context. I like telling stories about the characters as well. Let's run through the rest of this draw pretty quickly. I think we've gotten into the nuts and bolts of things pretty well. Sabalenka Vekic. I'm taking Sabalenka. You?
Same.
Coco Badosa. I'm taking Coco.
Same.
Keys Svitolina. I have Keys. These are my 3 for 3 on who I chose at the beginning. I think I had Keys in the semis. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Keys Svitolina, who do you like there?
Keys.
Navarro Swiatek. I had Swiatek at the beginning. I am not changing it now. JW?
Yeah, back to your point about her. It's not just us. That she's been playing some matches on the 3rd show. This is someone who's been number 1 for 125 of the last 150 weeks. Number 1 ranked player, and she's playing on the 3rd show court. You don't have that too much. But yeah, I like Iga's been terrific through 3 rounds. I like her.
So this one's going to be interesting. I had Sabalenka going through all the way. I think going into the tournament, she was the favorite. Sabalenka and Coco. I think Coco has played better to this point in the event, and also I have a hard time. Let's say, when you get a review and you need a lot of evidence to overturn your call. That's how I feel about this one with Sabalenka. I'm not going to overturn my call from the beginning. I'll take Sabalenka through. Are you taking Coco or Sabalenka? Tough one.
Oh, man. For the record, Craig Tiley, the tournament director, picks Coco. So read into that what you will. I gotta. Who did Coco beat to win her major?
Yeah, it was Sabalenka.
Sabalenka.
Yep.
This is kind of a coin toss. I'll stick with Sabalenka mostly out of respect for her track record in Australia, but I think Coco might be playing better. As you and I speak right now, I think Coco's had a better tournament.
Keys and Swiatek. I think you had Keys to the final. I think you had Keys to the final. Do you change that call based on what you've seen with Iga?
It is a show of cowardice, but if you're giving me the opportunity, I will change my pick. I think Iga's looking like.
Guys,
that's why we do these redraws, right?
Well,
not just
kind of.
Up for errors,
I'm not going to boo him because I'm going to do it on the men's side at the bottom half. So stay tuned. But I do just want to bring to light. Some of us get to a point, 8 days ago or 7 days ago, and I'm just nice that you've finally seen the light and are going Sabalenka Iga in the final, which I had at the.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Beginning of it. So welcome. I'm not gonna make fun of you for it. I'm just gonna say welcome. It's a big tent.
It's nice to be here. Doesn't a redraw show imply that we're not just papering over our mistakes, but we're taking the full measure of what we've seen?
Your pick was founded on love.
So love can't conquer Iga in the semis like it could a week ago?
I like Iga.
All right. Sabalenka.
No disrespect to Madison Keys.
Sabalenka, Iga in the final. By the way, if Iga wins this tournament, she's number one in the world again. So if that matchup happens, if I'm not mistaken, and if what I read is accurate, if Iga beats Sabalenka in the final, Sabalenka obviously loses points because she won last year. It's a 52-week ranking system. Iga gains a bunch of points because I think she lost third or fourth round. Iga's the number one player in the world. So this could be for the number one ranking, Sabalenka, Iga. Who leaves Australia the number one player in the world?
Dun, dun, dun. Let's take a break.
Oh. Support for our show comes from Blue Owl Capital. Hey, Mike, it was a pivotal moment in my career, a specific match where I knew I had to become a little bit more professional. I was a good player, but maybe didn't have it all figured out yet.
No, I don't. Which one?
I played Michael Chang in Roland Garros in the second round in 2001. I had 99 problems and cramps were one. Cramps in the fourth set. I realized, this is big boy tennis now. You got to play best of 5.
Wow.
Your body needs to be ready to go all the time. Michael was awesome, gracious at the handshake, told me what to do for the next 2 hours. And so, recovered, felt good, and then went out and lost the next round.
But what does any of that have to do with Blue Owl Capital?
Glad you asked, Mike. Glad you asked. Just like athletes are making their mark in the game of tennis, Blue Owl is doing the same thing in the investing landscape through vision and discipline. That's what I learned,
There
Mike.
it is.
That match. Blue Owl is redefining alternatives for investors and companies seeking private capital for long-term growth. So stay on the lookout for the Blue Owl logo and their sponsored players during the Australian Open this year. Check out what they're all about at blueowl.com/investing. All right, welcome back to Served. Way to go, cliffhanger Mike. No longer producer Mike, cliffhanger Mike. People have just been not even able to contain themselves with excitement because they want to hear Jon Wertheim's pick. Iga Sabalenka in our hypothetical redraw show. Do you pick Iga over Sabalenka?
I'm picking 3, Pete.
Yeah.
I think Sabalenka.
It's going to be a rarity in these shows where I pick the exact same people that I picked a week ago. And here we are. I have Sabalenka over Iga, even though I got to tell you the next 2 favorites outside of Sabalenka, which she was the favorite going in, I think pretty deservedly so, Coco and Iga have been better to this point. Now, that doesn't matter. You reset the deck going into the second week. I often think analysts put too much stock in form for first, second, third round. In a slam, we've seen Serena struggle a million times first, second, third round of a slam and then find her stride. I think Sabalenka has that gear. I'm not going to pick against her, but I do feel like she's not as clear of a favorite as she was at the beginning. I also like Sabalenka to leave Australia with her third Australian Open title and the number 1 ranking. Let's get over to the men's side. Obviously, we spent a lot of time talking about Jannik Sinner, chicken dinner. Maybe not as good as he was at the end of last year, but how can he be, right? He was literally drilling people in year-end finals where people didn't get to 5 in a set against him there. So that's a tough precedent, but has looked good. You're still going to pick him in every match. Holger Rune needed a result. I had him going out early in the thing. By thing, I mean the Australian Open. He was early. I was early in the thing.
Just this little thing.
Yeah, it's a little. I don't know, this tournament. Anyways, he's looked good. He's looked good. Got a big win over Berrettini. Just got through against Kecmanovic in 5 sets. Came back 2-1 down just right before we started shooting this show. Any reason to take Holger Rune over Jannik Sinner? I'm impressed with Holger. I think he has really set a nice pace for the year. He needed this as much as anyone. And also, I'm not taking him over Jannik Sinner.
What did we say last week? He was like idling in the fjords of Denmark, and now he's found his way into the Baltic. If we're going to torture that metaphor,
I understand no words.
By the way, a lot of people in the comments section said there are no fjords in Denmark. So just
that's true. They're in Norway.
Yeah.
There's no fjords in Denmark?
No, but not technically, no.
See, you come here for tennis picks and you get Scandinavian geography.
That's why
at the
I
same
love our
time.
comment
That's
section.
the bonus.
I feel smarter every time.
Is fjords with a J has a silent J?
Yes.
Fucking hate silent J's. Like yogging. That's what we're talking about. We had our second silent J of the episode.
When Kim Kleisters comes on this show, you may not want to reveal that.
I'm going to tell her.
She'll be on our recap show. So
I hate Silent J's, Kim. You're one of my favorite people, but I wish it was Klajitsters.
So when we should say he plays Onyx Center. All right, enough with the superfluous J's. I think Runa has beaten
more Silent J's than you think out there. Sorry. Jon Wertheim, go. Do you like Sinner over Runa?
Yannick Sinner beats Holger Rune, but nice to see Holger Rune playing Holger Rune tennis. How's that?
That's good. I had Alex Mickelson go into the third round. I had him losing to Karen Hachinoff. Don't you dare pronounce that consonant. I had Demon going to the quarters. Alex Mickelson's been really good, and he just doesn't miss balls he shouldn't miss. He's comfortable drifting behind the baseline, similar to kind of not the same person, so don't get crazy. He has the ability to create more speed on the backhand side, but constantly keeps the ball flight down on that backhand side, a la Hewitt, a la Medvedev. Mickelson has figured that out. Doesn't serve massive for his size, but can hit spots, defends his second serve really well. Also, there are guys who are really fast, right? Like James Blake was really fast, but didn't like playing defense, right? He liked being offensive. Alex Mickelson I don't think he's beating, most of the field in a 100-yard dash, but similar to Andy Murray, when he's extended, right? So when he is playing defense and it's not in his pocket, he has to reach. He is really, really, really good at putting the ball where in an uncomfortable spot for you or in a place where you can't finish him off on the next ball. Really, really good when he's extended, which seems to give him a little bit of comfort to not have to go for too much or miss balls. Really love what I'm seeing out of him so far. Had him losing to Hachinoff. I should have known better, but I did have Demon through to the fourth round. Who do you like in Demon and Mickelson there, Jon Wertheim?
The all Alex battle. No, Mickelson's been very impressive. Somebody from the UFC, they said some of these kids like Bassel Beretti and Lerner Tien play bigger than they are, and Mickelson almost plays smaller than he is, meaning he's more limber, gets out of the corners faster, doesn't have as big a serve as you might think, but makes up for it on the baseline. I think Alex de Minaur, hometown kid, the veteran, he's going to make Mickelson work. This has been a great tournament for Mickelson. I think it ends with the 8th seed with Alex de Minaur.
So something we don't like to do is when someone is not the biggest person as far as stature on earth and they're really fast, we like to basically say, oh, they run a lot of balls down. And Demon can certainly do that. One thing you're going to see him do against players like Alex Mickelson, which has separated him from being a guy who's 20 or 30 in the world and launched him into the top 10, he can force the issue and he volleys really well. His transition game is top 5, top 10 on tour, and we ignore it because, again, we get lazy with analysis and say, oh, he's really fast. He's not 6'5", so therefore he must just be a counterpuncher. He can bleed people lines, hit, and also look at the angles that he takes to balls. And I'm not saying when he's running after it, but he'll punch one deep. And then his ability to get inside of the court, Roger was a genius at this. We talk about, he can take the ball early. It was less about early. It's more about reading the ball off the person's racket and taking the angle where you're cutting it off, actually, and not running parallel to the baseline, but running kind of forward and across it. Demon is great at that, and he is going to need to do that against Mickelson if Mickelson drafts behind the baseline. This is a really fascinating matchup for me. I don't think I'm at the point where I can choose against Demon with the home crowd, but I believed in Mickelson a week ago, and my opinion of his game has only grown. I think the ability to you see when people can reset the deck, they're good in Newport, but can they play a 4-setter when you're 3.5, 4 hours in? I think Mickelson has crossed that barrier. Super impressive thing to do. It's nice to see with a young player. I think I take Demon, maybe in a big part because I took him before the tournament, but I really like Alex Mickelson, just can't get there. I think it's more of a coin flip than it was, than I would have had it a week ago, but I like Demon. And now we get to, you don't want to say story of the tournament, but I guess story of the first week, and maybe kind of surprising story of this year. Props to Mr. Svitolina, Gael Monfils, on becoming the oldest winner in ATP history last week in Auckland. And then you're going, okay, that was fun. He's got the Pechi Pericard situation, handles that. I expected Taylor Fritz to go through Gael Monfils. All right. This is not the show where I'm going to tell you everything I got right. I would have been on here telling you that Fritz can get on his front foot. He doesn't lose to people that can't really have massive weapons at this point in time. Someone who he seems to match up well against guys that, whose tendency is to play defense, whose instincts are to play defense. That is Gael Monfils. And I would have been 100% wrong on this. Gael Monfils, 38 years old, 2 number 4 seeds in a slam beaten in the same household. That must have been a happy hotel room when they got back, both having done their jobs at a very high level. What do we make of Gael Monfils, like pulling new tricks out at 38 years old? I thought he was done and dusted 2 years ago, and here he is.
I wanted to ask you that question. And, we have these lazy thumbnails that you've alluded to.
Yeah.
That this guy is a speedster and this guy is the heart of a lion. And Monfils, what was the book on him, right? It was always tons of talent, the great entertainer. He'd pick sort of style points over smart points. We have not seen that. I mean, first of all, we looked up, he had the highest ratio of first serve points won of active players going into yesterday. So he's winning points on his serve. It was like 85%.
For this
Some
tournament?
of those were against Perry Card, not a great returner, but he's winning 85% of his first serve points. And he's winning with defense. Usually when you get older, right, you shorten points and you try and conserve your energy. He's playing long points and long matches and kind of smart strategic tennis. I feel like in his prime, everyone loved the guy. He's great box office. I don't think the big three thought he was a particularly serious opponent. I mean, I don't think they were really, they liked him in the locker room. I don't think they had all, they didn't cower when they played the guy. And now, age 38, it's almost like, oh, these guys are only Novak's remaining. This is my time. Because you're right, he's been the story of the first 3 weeks of the year. I don't know, you tell me, what do you make of this?
Well, I'll tell you, and this is into the weeds a little bit, but I would have been wrong about the Taylor Fritz matchup. And I'll tell you what Gael did amazingly well. And the biggest adjustment, I'm looking at the stats. You mentioned the first serve points won. That is deceiving because Petchy Perricard doesn't win a lot of points on first serve returns. And you get 5 sets on that, stat metric. That's, it's like saying someone has a bunch of points in the paint 3 games into the year, but they've played small centers. Like I understand what you're saying. I agree with it. I actually think the serving stat that blew my mind with Gael Monfils, he won 68% of his second serve points against Taylor Fritz. 68% of his second serve points. Taylor Fritz is a good average first serve returner. He munches second serves. Like he opens up the shoulders. That is where he makes his hay. That is where he breaks people. Now, what Gael Monfils did, back when you were talking about the big three and how he used to play and he was an entertainer, largely hit this little bunny kick serve, this little bunny kick second serve, which was good, but he had a really good first serve and an okay second serve, right? And when he got nervous, he would try to up the miles per hour, weird double faults at times. He's hitting this little slice cut second serve, right? Where on the deuce side, if you're a returner, it'll start on your backhand side, and then it kind of moves across your body to where all of a sudden you're having to hit like a little pinchy forehand. Now, why does that matter against a Taylor Fritz? Taylor is not someone like a Roger who can hit that little chip return, right? He's not going to beat you with that. He needs to take a full swing to be really effective, right? That is his superpower, is full swings and pace, and he has become elite at that. There's not the Murray where you run around the forehand and you hit the backhand, right? You can play it off to the forehand or pinch it line towards the backhand, or Novak where you're just, the best returner ever. It forced Taylor Fritz to make the adjustment to all of a sudden go 3 or 4 feet behind the baseline to get that full swing on his forehand. So what does that do? 2 things. One, it gives Gael Monfils that extra beat or 2 to get ready for the pace of shot from Taylor Fritz off of when Taylor's hitting the second serve return. The other thing it does is Taylor Fritz is elite at many things. I don't think he'll ever be an elite mover. He has become such an improved mover and has been an absolute maximizer. But all of a sudden, Taylor Fritz is hitting the forehand. When he drifts back, the ball keeps going towards the sideline, past the sideline, into the alley. Taylor Fritz is making contact with it, a foot into the alley, where all of a sudden, even if he firms one up, Gael can play defense with that high loopy forehand and reset. So basically, by virtue of what he was doing and the pattern he was running on his second serve, it gave him time and space to get out of trouble when Taylor Fritz would firm it up. He did it over and over again. 68% of second serve points won against someone like Taylor Fritz, who can create as much pace as anyone in the world, is a heroic stat. 24 aces, 4 double faults. To pull that off without really upping the risk profile on your serve, props to Gael Monfils for problem solving. Not something you would have given him a ton of credit for 15 years ago. Wouldn't have been the first thing off of your lips when describing Gael Monfils as a really strategic problem solver. Props to him. He won this match with his brain. And obviously he's playing great tennis and has a feel for the ball, winning last week, has momentum. But I think that was the single biggest strategic play in this match against Taylor Fritz. So props to Gael Monfils, re-entering the conversation for the year at the young age of 38 years old. He will play Ben Shelton. Give us your take on Ben Shelton's week so far, JW.
I would say of any player, I might be most impressed with Ben Shelton.
Wow.
And there was this Nuke Lelouch aspect to his game, right? All the talent in the world and all the power and the lefty athleticism. How is he going to harness it? Mm-hmm. He has played smart tennis. He's played strategic tennis. Sets have gotten to 4-all, and he's really locked it down. He's serving his aces, but he's winning points in plenty of other ways. There seems, it's not unlike our Monfils conversation. There seems to be an element of strategy that has really wormed its way into his game. He's always going to have these highlight reel shots. He's done a lot more, and this has just been, it's been poised. It's been playing well when, he lost a set against Carreño Busta, resets and wins in 4. This is someone we're really seeing his evolution as a professional, and it's not necessarily reflected on the stat sheet, but you get the feeling he's really sort of aging into being a smart, thoughtful tennis player. And
a brutal draw, by the way. I mean, we both had upset special sirens going off. You chose Nakashima against him. I think I probably only didn't choose it because I wanted to counter you in that conversation. He was down a break and then break points to lose the first set against Nakashima. To your point, JW, if we pronounce silent J, your name would be YW, which is kind of fun too. Too much? Too many? Mike's mad. Anyway, but to problem solve and get out of that hole, and then all of a sudden, straight set win into some momentum, beating Musetti. Musetti is a real Grand Slam player at this point in his career. Something that Ben is doing, he's serving and volleying way more. Maybe, I would say 50% more than he was last year, and I love it because it differentiates. It makes his serve better. If he's coming in, all of a sudden, I have to lean on that backhand return, the slice lefty serve. It makes that kicker up and away where I can't give myself space because he's coming to the net. It completely kind of resets where you can stand for return position just with the threat of him coming and serving and volleying. And he has one of the few serves on tour that is almost Luxilon proof, right? He can still get it up and away on sides where you're not taking full cuts at it because obviously his arm is very alive. That matters. But the opposite spin situation for a lefty, the kick up to the forehand, you just don't see it that often. It's probably a serve you see the least. Returning a slice serve from a lefty is one thing. I didn't mind it as much, right? You could still pinch a return, get back into the situation. That little up and away thing when he's serving and volleying is nasty. So great week for Ben Shelton. Who do you like, Monfils, Shelton? I want you to go first, and I might just take whoever's left.
I think I'm going youth over experience. I think I'm going Shelton. I think the lefty look. I think honestly, at some point, age 38, you've got to pull up physically. No, I like Shelton over. Again, Shelton's really impressed me. I think Shelton's a semifinalist, to be honest.
Ooh, he's come a long way from the first round defeat. He's
losing
in
the first round, and a week later. That's either cowardice or flexibility.
No, cowardice is not being able to change your mind. If we're being honest, that's probably a longer conversation.
I was going to say that may apply beyond tennis. Yeah. Anyway, let's take Shelton.
When presented with facts, you don't double down on a mistake, right? when they counter your mistake. I think I'm going to take Monfils. I just feel like he's getting into a lot of return games. He's going to go way back. We're going to see how good this serve and volley situation is from Shelton, because he is going to drift. He's going to be a volume returner, right? He's not going to be an Agassi returner where the pace of the return and the speed of the return is the thing that bothers you. He's going to be a volume returner, right? He's going to make as many returns as possible. He'll have one hand off the racket. He's going to chip forehands. He's going to hit lobs off returns. And I think we're going to get a real test for Shelton for all of the things that you've been talking about, JW. And there's every chance I would have taken Shelton had you taken Monfils. It's one of the benefits of being able to speak first. But I just like the way I expect to see more of the Monfils serve, serving a high percentage of first serves, not going as big as often, right? Pitching a way better ball game on his serve. He used to go 140 and then he would hit a little 82 mile an hour bunny serve, so you could get into at least return games a little bit. I think I like Monfils in this one, but really same as you, super impressed with Ben Shelton, what he has worked on in the offseason. And let's get to the next matchup. I'm not going to go for the next name first. Actually, screw it, we will. Sonego, the biggest highlight match that he's had this week. One, if you don't know Sonego, it's basically if Ralph Macchio was an amazing tennis player. Like if he was an elite tennis player, it's Sonego. Sonego, I think it has a rap. So he's a rapper too. I think he's released some music. So pretty cool. Anyways, I like him. Always competes. Beat João Fonseca.
João.
Gosh, I was so not close. Who upset special, first round of Rublev, got through in 3 sets. I knew Sonego was going to be tough. It's tough to back up that first big win when you're young. I think Fonseca is a top 5 player, not going out on any limbs there. I think everyone, it seems to be a bit of a consensus. Sonego has played really well, but I think the big story in this matchup is who he plays next is Lerner Tien. Tell us about his week, and then I will give you my thoughts, having watched him more this week than I ever have in my life.
Lerner Tien, first of all, lost to Fonseca in the finals of this Next Gen event. Good week for the Next Gen event.
Yeah,
talk about some real predictive power there. Lerner Tien had to qualify, so bear in mind he won 3 matches before this tournament main draw even started, and he has been terrific. That match against Medvedev is the match of the tournament so far. It was wacky. The result was crazy, but so was the way we got there. Lerner Tien, the book on him was Flagrant Talent, this sort of lefty kid. People didn't know how hard he worked. It was sort of, is he going to get it together? And sort of the talent is there. Will everything else catch up? So against Medvedev, he wins the first 2 sets, confounds him with this lefty game, takes the ball early. Medvedev's pinned all the way behind the baseline, and Lerner Tien very strategically took advantage of that. Medvedev wins the 3rd set, and you say, okay, we've seen this movie before. Lerner Tien's going to say, it's a great learning experience. I take a lot of positives back with me. And Lerner Tien is not prepared for that script because he loses the 4th set and said, I wanted to win 1 game so I could serve first in the 5th. So I love how this 19-year-old kid is suddenly strategically deciding when he's going to win his game, and then finds a second win in the 5th set. Medvedev, again, the finalist last year, major champion on hardcourt, Daniil Medvedev, and he can't close out the kid. Lerner Tien wins at 3 a.m. in a 5th set breaker, promptly eats a pizza, and then returns 36 hours later and wins yet another match. And suddenly Lerner Tien finds himself at age 19 in the middle weekend of a major.
So you ready for this comp for Lerner Tien? And it won't, obviously everyone's going to say, okay, they're both not super tall and they're lefty. So it's going to get,
can I guess?
You're not going to guess it, but you can go ahead. I know you're going to say Rios or Manarino.
Yeah, right. Rios is the one that's got a lot of rotation. Who do you have?
Yeah, their racket work isn't the same. Rios could come over. He kind of had that like layoff forehand a little bit. We just like matching lefties with other lefties, even if it's. I think his game style is. He kept reminding me of another player, and the reasons why are that short pop forehand, right, where you kind of don't need a huge backswing, right? We think of massive forehands and the ones that get a lot of attention, and he still gets name checked all the time. And he had an absolute tornado of a forehand, but he also needed time to hit it, was Fernando Gonzalez, right? Massive forehand. God forbid you left something hanging over there. He would inflict pain on the ball, but wasn't going to be the guy to establish position and then step 3 or 4 feet inside the court and redirect line real quick with that little pop forehand. He needed a little bit more time, right? Lerner Tien with two things, that pop forehand where all of a sudden he was patient, would cut off the angle and could like create pace, but not with a huge backswing. That is a massive deal. And to see someone so young have control over that, and then the chip backhand he kept hitting. Basically, he was comfortable staying in rallies with Medvedev until he got what he wanted, hitting that cross-court chip, which you don't see a lot of 19-year-olds have complete control and or confidence in just laying the ball over there and knowing that Medvedev didn't have that Gonzalez-type power is way more effective in way more areas. How's this for a comp? Doesn't serve quite as well as this person, maybe doesn't move quite as well as this person, but the short backswing on the forehand to create a ton of speed and a two-hander where you largely kind of play it slow and flat until you hit the chip. Sebastian Grosjean, like a lefty version of Sebastian Grosjean, is what I see with Lerner Tien. I think Sebastian had one of the best serves ever for someone who wasn't 6 feet tall and maybe wasn't even 5'10" or 5'11". But the way that they construct points, I thought was very, very similar. Rios was a little different. He liked to play up inside the court a little bit more. You never really saw Rios hit a slice backhand ever. So the comparisons almost end right there. His forehand was a little bit more laid off. He didn't like cutting off the angles and taking it inside the court. It was more like he would work you. You had to check step and then he would lay it off at the last second. Lerner Tien is more proactive between shots as far as positioning because he has to be. I don't think the racket work is quite the same. Inevitably, I knew that people would say that just because the size and the leftiness probably makes a little bit of sense. But Sebastian Grosjean is my player comp with what they kind of do well and where they seem to be comfortable in the court. But you mentioned it with the Medvedev match. I can't tell you how mentally demanding it is to have a match point in the biggest match of your life, not have it go your way, have to wait an hour and 45 minutes for that opportunity again, break back to even get the chance to get back to match point. So impressed with Lerner Tien. You heard a lot. You got to put stock in people dominating the Challenger Tour. It is very rare that someone spends an entire year doing work on the Challenger Tour, consistently winning, getting deep, and then not having that translate the next year to Lerner Tien. Am I crazy with my Grosjean player comp?
You could have given me 50 guesses and I wouldn't have said that, but as you explain it, you make a good case. Sebastian Grosjean, also Australian Open finalist, right? I mean, Sebastian Grosjean, I think his biggest success came.
I don't.
Or no, it was semifinals.
He made the semifinals of all 4 slams. I don't think he made a Grand Slam final.
I think you're right. I think he lost to Arnaud Clement. Anyway, why are we doing this?
Correct.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never would have guessed that Sebastian Grosjean, but as you explain it, I think that's, Sebastian Grosjean, that's a proper career. If Lerner Tien can replicate Sebastian Grosjean's career, I suspect he's very happy. That's an interesting comp. By the way, just aside from way back, Ralph Macchio allegedly listens to this podcast. I'll have you know.
No, he fucking doesn't. No, he does not.
You've made my day.
We've made it.
Oh,
We've made it.
Like that. Done.
What's up, Ralph?
Go home,
if
everyone.
he responds, I'm going to lose my mind. It's just not even.
Can we also real quick?
It doesn't.
If anybody wants to have fun, go get on the Google web and look at the shot that Sonego hit to save break point against Stan Wawrinka.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
It's the greatest tennis shot I've ever seen.
Oh, that's it.
I mean,
okay.
Given the time of the match and what he executed, it's an insane shot. Anyway, who do we like? Sonego's already beaten one teenager in Fonseca. How do we think he does against Lerner?
It's a lot of new stuff for Lerner Tien. I think the fact that he came out, beat Moutet, who's crafty, tries to annoy his opponents, gets under their skin and handled that in straight sets. He's going to feel better physically, I think, for the Sonego match than he would have for the Moutet match because there's more time to recover, right? That when you finish at 3 a.m, you're not getting to sleep till 8 a.m. You basically might as well have like 12 hours of recovery time. There's just no perfect way to do it. I think he's made the toughest recovery he's going to have to make, barring another late nighter, which they're not going to put Sonego and Tien last on anywhere. That's going to be one that's going to be played pretty early in the day, I think. So my heart's telling me Lerner, Tien. But since Ralph Macchio list, no, I'm joking. I'm going to go with Lerner, Tien, and that might be a complete homer pick. I'm not sure. What do you think, JW?
I think I'm going to go Sonego.
Yeah.
I think Lerner Tien's had a tremendous breakthrough, transformative tournament. I think the veteran gets him. I think keep in mind too, just played 3 matches before the main draw started. He's played a lot of tennis.
Yep.
I think Sonego beats a tired kid, but Lerner Tien has been one of the standouts of this tournament regardless.
Agreed. We're now getting into, actually, you know what? This is where JW's bracket kind of broke a little bit. It just was.
I was hoping you would gloss over that.
We can't gloss over something that went this badly. We'll tell you what it is right after this break. And who is Novak going to get through? Chuckster? I don't know. All back after the break. Support for our show comes from Blue Owl Capital. The Australian Open is happening right now. That shouldn't be surprising. We've been talking about it all episode. Clearly, we're invested, but we're highlighting it again because our sponsor, Blue Owl Capital, is also invested. They've sponsored some players at the Australian Open who are hoping to make a real mark on the game of tennis. So be on the lookout for the Blue Owl logo on the court throughout the tournament. Check them out at blueowl.com/investing. The company is making a strong push to change the investing game as well by redefining alternatives for investors and for companies seeking capital solutions for long-term growth. Once again, that's blueowl.com/investing to learn more about the company, their focus, and how they are redefining alternatives. And we are back. Guys, can you tell me who Jon Wertheim had in the finals from this section?
You know, we're running pretty tight on time. Novak Djokovic plays Yuri Leheshka.
He does play
a
Leheshka.
Shot at the quarters.
No, I definitely want to get to that because
that's not the one you're talking about.
It seemed like it went sideways.
It started with a K.
It was Sebastian Korda,
who
I had actually beating Draper. So I was a little wrong about Korda losing to Vukic. Bracket busted day one. I mean, just let's see what kind of graphics you can get for that, Techie Sean. It was not good. JW, your thoughts?
High risk, high reward. My draw was blowtorched. I honestly, some of this is it's boring to pick chalk, and you want to be the guy who finds the sleeper. Sebastian Korda, if you talk to the USTA guys, they will tell you he is as talented as they've had anyone roll through that. He's a good kid. Sometimes the body gives out on him. I thought he was ready. We had one of his matches against Davidovich Fokina, who, speaking of a player who's acquitted himself well, Sebastian Korda looked like he was playing a different sport. I mean, these were like two different, this was the week before we had this on Tennis Channel. These look like two players at just completely different levels of tennis. Sebastian Korda's had success in Australia before. I thought this could be a nice value pick, but yeah, that's kind of a mystifying defeat. Losing to Vukic, he wasn't a wild card, an Australian player of some repute, but this is not someone that should be stopping Sebastian Korda's progress. I'm just mystified by this result.
Yeah, and Sebastian had played well going in, had played deep in the week before, and I really like Sebastian Korda. Personally, I think his ceiling is significant. I had him making the fourth round. Only a psychopath would have taken him further against the Chuckster, but I digress. And it's just simply, if you are the top 10 guy or you want to be the top 10 guy, I like Vukic. This is not a criticism of Vukic, but a guy that is heart and soul doesn't do anything to knock you off the court. If you want to be that top 5, top 10 guy, these are the matches you have to win in slams. And I thought some of his criticism for slams before largely dealt with health. Wimbledon last year loses first round to Pechi Pericard, which is almost a coin flip against most of the draw. So I do have a lot of patience. I'm not the walked uphill both ways to school guy. And you have to win this match. If A, your body feels good, B, you have form coming in, and C, you want to be, and people treat you like you're a top 10 guy. Simply, these are the matches you have to get through if you want to have the impact that we all think you can have. So this was a tough one. I didn't like to see this one, and it's just something that he's going to have to look in the mirror, acknowledge it, and figure out what to do next. But let's get to this part of the draw beyond Sebastian Korda. Djokovic, Lehechka, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, that's your guy. Lehechka has played up to his billing. Novak for the first 2 rounds looked a little like a 37-year-old man, and then turned it around against Mahach. I mean, I thought Mahach would give him much more of a fight. Novak gets through in straights, had a little bit, I don't know, he looked like he had some breathing issues, but I don't know how much of that is sort of Novak, he had it out with a heckler. This was sort of like back to old times. I think Novak suddenly looks like a guy who's won this event a few times and is going for his 25th major. I think he beats his second straight player from the Czech Republic, i.e. Czechia. I think Lehechka is going to bring a little bit more of sort of contained power than Mahach at a better serve, but I think Andy Murray extends his coaching record to 4-0 in the 4th round.
Yeah, I've couple times this week I've chosen sleep, and then I watch all the matches back during the day the next day. But the score line for Novak and Mahach, when you wake up and you see 1-4-4, I think Mahach is a borderline top 10 player by the end of the year. Sleeper for that. I've said this on air. I think the same about Lehechka, but 1-4-4 is a beating on a Grand Slam stage. And Novak putting that score on someone who you think has the ceiling of being a top 10 player, it made you go, ooh. And then you read that he's fighting with people. It makes me go double, ooh. Okay, he's in this thing. Lehechka was my breakout pick for the year. I still like it. I am not ready to choose him against Novak, who's picking fights with fans. That's a different type of thing. Creating that friction, being great, goading his way through this event so far. I feel the exact same way. First couple rounds were a little scratchy, and then I 1-4-4 against Mahach. That is no joke. I like Novak going to the quarters, and then Draper against the Chuckster. So I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'm going to tell you when someone has changed, right? Or improved, or whatever my narrative is about someone. I will not hold that narrative in the face of facts. I just won't, right? Jack Draper, and to his own admission, he's admitted this as well, physically maybe not always able to play extended matches, right? We've seen it many times throughout his career. We saw it a little bit in the semifinals against Sinner last year at the US Open, where he's throwing up 2 sets in and he's like, my body just gave out. And he was very honest about it. He has gotten through some intense matches. Kokkinakis, winning in 5 sets back to back to back. It's been really impressive. He's shown us a different side of himself because he's not playing as well as he was last year at the US Open when he was running through people with pretty lopsided score lines, beating people like Demon in straight sets, right? But showing us a different way to progress through a slam. I don't think he beats the Chuckster. I think you can only pay the bill of physicality so many times early in a slam. But props, respect to Draper. I don't think you had this in your body a year ago.
Yeah, agree wholeheartedly. And I agree too. He's been pretty open about how he needs to make strides, and now he's winning 5-setters. I think you're right. That's a lot of, mileage may vary. I mean, not every player has the same limits, but yeah, 15 sets in 3 rounds is not sort of the bill of particulars you want when you're about to play Alcaraz. Very impressive for Draper getting through these 5-setters, but I think the Chuckster especially if young John the fan does the pre-match coin flip that will fire him with extra motivation. I like Alcaraz.
Quick note on Alcaraz. I love the fact that it'd be very easy for someone who's won 4 Grand Slams, by 21 years old, to just do more of the same, right? My serve's good enough. I've won Wimbledon twice, right? My forehand's maybe the biggest in the world. What do I need to do? Comes in talking about weight of shot, how a racket adjustment might be able to give him a little bit more pace, talking about I have a new service motion. I need to get more free points in my serve more often, even at the expense of accuracy sometimes. If I get both, great. But someone who comes to Australia and it's very obvious that they have a very clear vision of what they needed to do and work on during the offseason. It's something you see someone who's 50 in the world do. Not often is it someone who's coming off of 2 slam wins the previous year making changes. And maybe they work, maybe they won't, but I love the fact that he's humble enough to be forward thinking about what he can improve on. And he's looked great so far. His biceps look great too. Am I wrong? Producer Mike?
Dude's pretty jacked.
We should do a side-by-side with your biceps and his and just see
no,
what.
that's not even fair.
Okay. Were you one who's like, oh gosh, be careful what you tinker with? Or were you going, okay, I like this as a former player. It's something to me that goes, okay, well, I got criticized last year for daring to say that Alcaraz's serve against Zverev wasn't good when he lost in the quarterfinals of Australia, and that it was streaky and that it was a point for improvement. People are going, but he's so good. I go, yeah, he's so good. And there's still room for improvement. Like, that's how good he is. Like, he's having these results. Just imagine how scary he's going to be. And he's actively addressing the issues, which I love.
And it shows up in the stat sheets. He's also stuck with it. I mean, is there any downside to tinkering? I mean, does anyone make their games worse by taking this scant off season and trying something different? I mean, if it breaks down, you can always go back to the old way. But what do you think? I'll
tell you, I literally spent, to the detriment of me and most of my matches, I spent all my time consumed with trying to figure out what type of game would beat one person. And I think for large amounts of 2006, it was a net negative. I forgot about who was across from me because I was so obsessed with how the matchup with Roger would go if and when I got there. So I love the tinkering. I don't think with someone like a Ferrero, they're going to take their eye off of it. I don't think it's an obsession with one person, which can be wrong. I think it's an obsession with improving his own game for all people, which I think is a differentiator. But yeah, I do think tinkering sometimes, if you tinker too much, it can go sideways. I think the fact that it was very clear the racket maybe took care of one part of it. So that's not a technical adjustment that you have to think of. It's just a matter of making that feel fluent with swings. And the serve is like, listen, it still doesn't feel totally natural all the time, but I'm going to commit to it. I just love hearing that, seeing that from the Chuckster. I like him in this matchup regardless. I like him in this matchup. If he gets a lead, what Draper has to deal with mentally with the physicality and what his body's already been through, I think is too much. Props to Draper. Chuckster moving on. Next section. One of the things I love about tennis is that we just completely forget about people if they're not on our radar consistently. Like just less than 2 years ago, Davidovich Fokina beats Novak in Monte Carlo, makes the final there, is wearing 2 different color socks, has this like shaved up the sides man bun thing, goes crazy, is happy. It's just, he's fun to watch. And then he beats Hurkacz first round of Wimbledon after Hurkacz had won hot. Like he was very much in the orbit of conversation for a moment in time. Last year, more of a struggle. He's been entertaining. He's been tough. He's re-entered the conversation and getting through this part of the draw to face Tommy Paul. Have you caught any of his matches so far this week? Yay, W?
I've seen a little of the tail ends the way you have the next day.
Yeah.
And he's closed strong. He's played a lot, I mean, at some point the finite resource that is energy has got to give out when these guys are playing 5-setters. But I can't remember where I saw this. I think I wish I could attribute this where I heard it, but he beat 3 top 50 players last year, and he beat 3 top 50 players to get to this point, including Felix. And I think you're right. He kind of gives off these these sort of good guy receptors. You get a good vibe from him, but there's a lot of talent here. And last year was a bit of a step back, and now this is a really strong result. But I don't think he gets any further.
He actually has a losing record in his career. He's 115 and 121.
A lot. So that's actually not as crazy as you think.
Yeah.
Like I'll get part of this wrong, but I almost feel like you have to be top 30 or 40 consistently to have a winning record on tour.
Wow.
And so he had a lot of years where he wasn't that. He was 80, 90. And then he kind of had this cup of coffee when he was flirting with the top 20 and getting a lot of like big wins. But props to him. And I think I have to lay on the sword here. How far did I have FAA going? It might have been quarters. Round 4. And I'm losing to Tommy Paul. So I have to eat crow on that one. But I think JW had Mensik. He was all Czechia all the time. Almost got there, but Davidovich Fokina blowing up brackets on served.
Yeah,
redraw show. I like Tommy Paul. Talked about him a ton. I had him going to semis in the original one. I'm changing it. This is what a redraw show is.
Flippy Magoo.
And not because of anything that Tommy Paul has shown us. It was purely a question of the next section. And you said you have Tommy Paul going past Davidovich also? You said...
Yeah, I have Tommy Paul into the quarters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's set. We have Tommy Paul into the quarters. Humbert and Zverev. I had Tommy Paul in the semis just because there were question marks around Zverev's health. Going into this tournament, he seems healthy. He's doing Zverev things. He's serving close to 70%. He's able to extend rallies, elite backhand, doesn't miss a lot of returns, doesn't really beat himself very often in these Grand Slams. Nice story for Humbert. Traditionally likes the fast indoor situation. This is a fast court. He will be able to bother Zverev. Like, he likes coming forward. He can take time away from that forehand side. I just can't get to the point where I can choose Humbert over a healthy Zverev in a Grand Slam. JW?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Zverev's draw combined with the way he's been playing, put it this way, he will be profoundly disappointed if he does not at least get to the semis.
Yeah, I think that's right. All right, let's go through these matchups quickly before we wrap. These are all hypothetical matchups, so we won't spend too much time on them. I will be on the show doing quick serve episodes this week where I'll do in-depth breakdowns of the specific matchups that we are looking at. So please check those out. Mike, those just rocking up on where we're same.
Yeah, we do them as early in the morning and then get them out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, this is tough because we're now shooting like almost like 2 days ahead of where we normally would to be where we normally would be. So like we're with the Aussie Open timelines as well, but we're gonna put stuff out every day. There'll be something there for you. Sinner chicken dinner over the Demon. Any speak now, forever hold your peace. I'm guessing you're gonna hold some peace.
Hold in peace.
All right, you have Shelton against Sonego. I have Monfils and Lerner Tien. Do you have Shelton or Sonego going into the? Is that a semi? That's a semi.
I was gonna say my first round loser, Ben Shelton, into the semifinals.
I love it. Okay, I'll go. Gosh, I mean, I'm going Monfils or Lerner Tien in this to the semis.
That's a sentence you didn't envision saying a week ago.
All right,
is he like literally double his age?
Yeah. Yes, he is literally double his age.
Yeah, right.
Fuck it, Monfils in the semis. Obviously, that's where we're going with it. Djokovic, Chuckster.
Oh man, I
this.
gotta go Chuckster. I just think the old 16-year-old age difference. I just old young legs over old head. I don't know. I mean, this is why Andy Murray was brought on, right? It wasn't to get through guys outside the top 100 of the first 2 rounds of the tournament. It was for matches like this. Maybe that's an X factor. I think the Chuckster, if Djokovic wins this match 3-3-3, it wouldn't. I mean, nothing Djokovic does surprises, but I got to go Chuckster.
I'm with you, and I hate to say it. Like I have a really hard time saying words where I choose against Novak anywhere. I don't like doing it. And I don't know, 51-49. I just hate it. This, what I will say is this will be a true test for improved serving, and the stress test of serving against Novak 4-all, 30-all versus serving against anyone he's played so far is a different type of stress test. So I can't wait to see it. I'm sure if this matchup happens, Craig Tiley will be the happiest person in Australia. I'm sure it'll get quite the rating down under. Let's go to Tommy Paul, Alex Zverev. I'll go first because I am reversing course. Not quite as extreme as Shelton first round to semis, but I had Tommy Paul through to the semis based on health concerns for Zverev. Zverev seems healthy. I love Tommy Paul. Such a well-rounded game, can beat you in a number of different ways. And also Zverev serves 143 and serves 70% per first serve. So I'm going Zverev.
Yeah, and not too much tread taken off the tires too for Zverev. It's been pretty easy first week. I got to go Zverev as well.
All right, Sinner, Shelton, are you just going to blow up the universe? You go first round to win, or do it.
I give Shelton a real chance. If this match, let's reinforce the fact that we're talking hypotheticals here, as
correct
we often do on these shows. If Shelton were to play Sinner, I would give Shelton a real chance. Like,
so can't
45,
lose to Nakashima, beat Sinner, make it make sense.
I wouldn't say beat Sinner. I would say take sets off Sinner. I can't pick against Sinner, but I think Ben Shelton in the last week of we saw him. We had him on Tennis Channel, and he lost to Mensah, and he looked like Nuke Lelouch. And I don't know what happened, but boy, has he been composed and strategic, and sort of he looks like somebody who's really leavening his power and athleticism with some real tennis know-how. But I gotta go Sinner.
Love shows where we have two Lelouch references. Got to be honest, those are my favorite types. Zverev, Chuckster. I like Sinner also. Zverev and Chuckster. Hypothetical matchup, and then we'll talk about the Easter Bunny.
You remember they played last year, and it looked like it looked like an adult in it. I mean, Alcaraz was really a mystery.
Yep.
Juan Carlos Ferrero was not there, which may have made a difference. But Alcaraz was sort of disorganized, and his shot selection was crazy, and he was going for tweeners when he didn't have to, and he was sort of a really weirdly, uncharacteristically vacant performance. I wonder how much that would stick with him. It's hard to pick against Alcaraz though, and I think Zverev has some real late in major scar tissue as well. I think that Chuckster can handle that Zverev back, and I don't know. What the hell do I know? I'll take Alcaraz.
So right now I just went to my weather app because I think that matters in this matchup. When they would play this match, Thursday or Friday, 60% chance of rain and 50% chance of rain. Indoors in this matchup,
indoor tennis
favors Zverev. The toss is in the same spot every time. The sound matters. Indoors, people think of it as way faster. You get, however many tens of thousands of bodies in that arena specifically. It gets humid. Everything slows down, right? If it's 90 degrees, I think I take Alcaraz because the ball is jumping everywhere. He's getting a little bit of love. It would have been pretty straightforward. I don't think I can choose against. See, this is one of those weird ones where now I'm like, okay, is Carlos more likely to get through Novak and Zverev, or is Zverev more likely to get through Tommy Paul and Carlos? As we're picking, and all we're trying to do is the best chance of someone getting to the final, right?
So it's interesting. So if the roof is closed, you're feeling it's favoring Zverev.
I do.
If roof's open,
I like Carlos more.
That's so interesting.
Yeah,
that's good.
I think I'm going to go Zverev. Just based on weather, only
Even
based on weather.
50-50.
And I just think he's more likely to get through. I think he's more likely to get through Tommy and Chuckster than Chuckster is Novak and Zverev. I don't like it. I feel gross. Like I don't like doing this. I don't feel confident. It doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean I'm confident. I didn't say this with the arrogance of like Cordo's going to make the final. I wouldn't do anything crazy like that. That's like I obviously wouldn't do that. I guess Zverev. Either way, I have Sinner winning the tournament still. But I hate everything.
You notice how he didn't pick there? John. He just said either way, Sinner.
No,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
said I did Zverev.
You did.
Yeah, I don't know if I like him in the individual matchup against Chuckster. I just think he's more likely to get through those two than Chuckster is to get through Novak and Zverev.
So interesting.
With the roof closed. So just on a percentage basis, who's more likely to be in the final? I think I lean Zverev.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't like it. Anyways, that's what housekeeping do we have, producer Mike? Anything else? We have Sabalenka, Swiatek. I think JW has Shelton winning the tournament, right?
Sinner D. Alcaraz.
There we go. Sinner D. Alcaraz. Going to be back with a bunch of quick serve situations. Producer Mike, anything else?
Like, subscribe, follow, all the good stuff.
All right, JW, thanks for the quick serves all this week. I will take on the heavy lifting for next week, so hopefully you can get some sleep. Thank you for listening to Served. We appreciate you, and we will be back all week. Check us out, Quick Served. Thank you. Thanks to Blue Owl Capital for their support. Tennis is always evolving, and there are always those rising star players whose vision and discipline make them game-changing champions. The same goes for investing. The investment landscape is evolving, with alternatives becoming more mainstream, and Blue Owl is a leader, redefining the category, identifying new opportunities to deliver for its investors. Blue Owl is redefining alternatives and sponsoring players redefining the game. So keep an eye out for their logo at the Australian Open, and in the meantime, learn what they're all about at blueowl.com/investing.